is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have. So I want tonight to express gratitude to all the women who have endured years of abuse and assault because they, like my mother, had children to feed and bills to pay and dreams to pursue. A name I know and I think you should know too. In 1944, Reese Taylor was a young wife and a mother. She was just walking home from a church service she'd attended in Abbeville, Alabama, when she was abducted by 6 armed white men, raped and left blindfolded by the side of the road, coming home from church. She lived, as we all have lived, too many years in a culture broken by brutally powerful men. For too long, women have not been heard or believed if they dared to speak their truth to the power of those men. But their time is up. I just hope that Reese Taylor died knowing that her truth, like the truth of so many other women who were tormented in those years, and even now tormented, goes marching on. It was somewhere in Rosa Parks' heart almost 11 years later when she made the decision to stay seated on that bus in Montgomery. And it's here with every woman who chooses to say, "Me too." And every man who chooses.
Hello, YouTube family. This is K-Steps with Undiluted TV, and I'm back with another episode. And tonight we're going to get into Miss Oprah Winfrey. We are going to have a breakdown of Miss Oprah Winfrey. I'm tired of hearing some of the things that I've been hearing. I'm tired of some of the comments that I've been seeing, especially on some of my videos that go into the situation with Oprah as far as leaving Neverland is concerned. So it's just time to break the thing down with Miss Oprah Winfrey, and time to put it out there. You know what Miss Oprah Winfrey has been all about, and what she's been up to, and what she's been doing. So that's what we're going to get into tonight for tonight's show. We're going to bring you some news about Miss Oprah. And so please like this video. Please share this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Support the channel if you feel led to do so. The articles that I read from, also some YouTube videos, will be linked in the description box, as well as the link if you want to support the channel. If you decide that you would like to advertise on the channel, you can advertise your business, you can advertise your blog, you can advertise your YouTube channel, whatever you'd like to advertise on this channel. The email so that you can get in contact with me will also be in the description box. But again, please like, please subscribe. If you comment, as I've always said, we can agree to disagree. It's not about you agreeing or disagreeing. It's about everybody being respectful to everybody, because we're all grown. And for the comment that I made in my last video about Neverland firsthand, yes, as far as I'm concerned, mainstream media, Oprah, all of them need to apologize to the Michael Jackson family. They need to apologize to his kids. There needs to be a public apology for the trash and the job that they have done, the whole smear campaign against him. It would have been one thing if they had come at him when he was alive. But to wait for this man to be dead almost 10 years and then come out with this mess and come out with this trash, knowing that he was dead, knowing that there was no way he could answer his accusers, knowing there was no way he could defend himself. Why? Because he's dead. And again, you're dealing with somebody who has already gone through the system. somebody who has already been investigated, somebody who was investigated by the LAPD. He was investigated by the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. He was investigated by the FBI for 10 plus years. He went to trial in 2005 on 14 counts, 10 felony counts, 4 misdemeanor counts. And they could not present enough evidence to even get him on a misdemeanor account. He was found not guilty of all 14 counts in 2005. In 1993, when the allegations came against him with the Jordy Chandler and the Jordy Chandler family, when the allegations came against him, they put it before the grand jury 2 times, and both times the grand jury refused to indict. So everybody thinks that just because there was a settlement with Jordy Chandler that all of that stuff just went away. No, it didn't go away. Twice, Tom Sneddon and the DA's office, the LA DA's office, the LA County DA's office, twice they went before the grand jury. 2 times the grand jury refused to indict. Why? Because there was not enough evidence. So it's time for the foolishness to stop. It is absolutely time for the foolishness to stop. And that's what this show tonight is all about. This show tonight is all about, we're going to take the focus off of Michael, because the focus never had any business being on Michael Jackson. There was enough of focus on him when he was living. So much focus that the FBI, with a 98% conviction rate, couldn't find anything on him after 10 plus years of investigation. So if we're talking about the federal government investigating, we're talking about phone taps, we're talking about wiretaps, we're talking about this man being followed and surveillance everywhere he went, with the whole 9 yards when the FBI is investigating you. And there is absolutely no way that he would have walked away from that 2005 court case not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty 14 times if the FBI had anything on him. So it's time for us to take the focus off of him and put the focus where it really should be. And that's on Oprah and the people that she's really covering for, the people that she's really hiding things for, the people that this whole cover up and this whole smear campaign was meant to protect. R. Kelly, all of that. Bill Cosby, all of that was meant to protect other people. And it's time for us to get to the bottom of it. So, this is where we're going to start tonight. We're going to start at the beginning. That's where we're going to start tonight. We're going to start at the beginning. And we're going to start in 1993, when Oprah Winfrey, who hadn't been on the scene very long, and she certainly didn't have the name, the power, the position, the clout, the platform that she has now. When she, of all people, was given the opportunity to interview Michael Jackson, somebody who had for years refused to be interviewed. For years, up until 1993, Michael had refused to be interviewed. And this interview with Oprah was one of his first for years. And it was, let's see how they worded it. The most watched interview in television history. And it still is. It still is the most watched interview in television history. On February the 10th, 1993. That's when Michael Jackson not only allowed Oprah to interview him, but he allowed Oprah into his home. He allowed Oprah into his personal space. He allowed Oprah to see things and hear things that nobody else had been allowed to see or hear. And we can honestly say that interview gave her the best ratings that she's ever had, and it put her on the map. It put her and her show, her whole career, on the map. So we can almost say that Michael Jackson is the reason why Oprah is who Oprah is today. The most watched interview in television history. So let's talk about that interview a little bit. Now I found this funny how funny how she wants to dog him out now, and she wants to dig him up and crucify him all over again. But it's funny how on Oprah.com you can still find her talking about that interview, that 1993 interview with Michael Jackson, because I found this at www.oprah.com, and it is the Michael Jackson interview. Oprah reflects. On February 10th, 1993, Oprah sat down with Michael Jackson for what would be the most watched interview in television history. Michael, a fiercely private entertainer, had refused to give an interview for 14 years. It had been 14 years that he had refused to do any interviews, but he let Oprah in. Almost like when he let Martin Bashir in after all that time, and Martin Bashir stabbed him in the back as well by not putting all the footage out there. The unprecedented live event, which took place before any allegations were made about sexual abuse, drew a worldwide audience of 90 million people. It was the most exciting interview I had ever done, Oprah says. It certainly was going to be the most watched interview I had ever done. 16 years after that memorable special, and just a few months after Michael's untimely death, Oprah opens up about what she really thought of the candid discussion. So this is her reflecting. This is 2009, and her reflecting back to that 1993 interview with Michael. Oprah's done thousands of interviews since she sat down with Michael, but she can still remember her excitement at going to the King of Pop's home. We are coming in the gates of Neverland, and it's like a moment in The Wizard of Oz, she says. It was literally like going to see the wizard. We couldn't believe it. I felt like a kid. During that interview, Michael spoke to Oprah about missing out on a normal childhood. I remember going to the recording studio, and there was a park across the street, and I'd see all the children playing, and I would cry, and it would make me sad that I would have to go to work instead, he said. People wonder why I always have children around. It's because I find the thing that I never had through them. Disneyland, amusement parks, arcade games. I adore all that stuff because when I was little, it was always work, work, work. Okay, now right here, he explains to her why he loves to have children around. He explains to her the very reason behind Neverland existing. And he explains it to her the same way he has consistently explained it down through the years. Looking back, Oprah says she realized in that moment that she had a fondness for Michael. He's very likable there, and I can tell you, I really, really liked him, she says. After this interview, I thought I could be his friend because I felt that he was really honest. Now remember, this is an interview that she's doing in 2009, right after his death. And she's reflecting back on the interview that she had with him in 1993. Michael's relationship with his father, Joe Jackson, has had plenty of headlines throughout the years. When Michael spoke with Oprah, he was extremely open about the sensitive subject, saying his father called him ugly, beat him, and frightened him. I love my father, but I don't know him. Sometimes I do get angry. I don't know him the way I'd like to know him, he said. My mother's wonderful. To me, she's perfection. I just wish I could understand my father. When Oprah asked Michael why Joe beat him, Michael wasn't entirely sure. I don't know if I was his golden child or whatever it was. Some may call it a strict disciplinarian or whatever, but he was very strict. He was very hard. Just a look would scare you, Michael said. There's been times when he'd come to see me and I would get sick. I'd start to regurgitate. Joe Jackson, of course, has repeatedly denied any allegations that he beat Michael. Oprah says she was surprised that Michael was so candid in his revelations about his father. Even in saying it, Michael tried to temper it by saying, "Please, don't be mad at me, Joseph." So obviously you know that he still carried that fear and pain, she says. Look in his eyes when he starts to talk about his father. His eyes shift. In 1993, controversy about Michael's skin color was at an all-time high. He kept getting whiter and whiter and whiter, and nobody understood why, Oprah says. Anybody who knew Michael Jackson would tell you that when you are up close to him, he had absolutely no pigmentation in his skin. Anybody who knew Michael Jackson will tell you that when you are up close to him, he had absolutely no pigmentation in his skin. You are looking at his veins when you look at his hand. You are seeing through to the blue veins, and they're very, very apparent. At first, that's a startling thing. Nobody ever talks about that, but it takes you aback at first. You're looking at a person who is almost translucent. Then she goes on to describe that Michael tells her about him having the vitiligo, and that the disease was in his family. It is something I cannot help. When people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me, he said. It's a problem for me. I can't control it. But what about all the millions of people who sit in the sun to become darker, to become other than what they are? Nobody says nothing about that. Then she goes on to talk about how they had a conversation about plastic surgery. And she says when Oprah broached the subject, Michael wouldn't go into specifics, but he said he'd had less plastic surgery than people thought. You can count them on 2 fingers. I have never had my cheekbones done, never had my eyes done, never had my lips done. Regarding his appearance at the time, Michael said he wasn't pleased. I try not to look in the mirror. I'm never happy with what I see. In 1994, Michael married Lisa Marie Presley. The marriage lasted only 2 years, but when Michael talked with Oprah a year before his nuptials, everyone was wondering if and who he dated. Michael told Oprah that he was in a relationship with Brooke Shields. Then Oprah asked the question even she says was embarrassing. Are you a virgin? Michael never answered. I'm a gentleman, he said. That's something that's private. That shouldn't be spoken about openly. You can call me old-fashioned if you want, but to me, that's very personal. If there's one dance move for which Michael will forever be remembered, it's unquestionably the moonwalk. During the interview, Oprah got a private lesson in the signature move. The moonwalk came from these beautiful black kids who live in the ghettos in the inner cities, who are brilliant. They just have that natural talent for dancing, any of the new hot dances. They come up with these dances, Michael said. All I did was enhance the dance. We all remember when we first saw Motown 25, the Motown 25 special, and Michael Jackson moonwalked. There are seminal moments in our life, and that's one of them, Oprah says. So to be able to see him do that live and experience it, that was a little thriller for me. Toward the end of her interview with Michael, Oprah talks with him about his life's purpose: to give in the best way I can through song and through dance and through music, Michael said. I believe that all art has its ultimate goal, the union between the material and the spiritual and the divine. I believe that's the reason for the very existence of art. And I feel I was chosen as an instrument to give music and love and harmony to the world. In the closing moments of the special, Oprah asked Michael what he wanted to be most known for. Though Michael thought she was asking him what he wanted to be remembered for, Oprah quickly corrected him. She, like Michael's fans, never imagined he would be gone so soon. Obviously, if I had known that we'd be sitting here talking about the memory of Michael Jackson, I would have let him finish what he wanted to be remembered for, she says. What I remember about Michael the most is that he was a person who was passionate about life. He was really passionate about his work and passionate about his desire to try to be a good force in the world. This was published 9/16/2009. And again, that was the interview that she did just a few months after his death, right? Just a few months before she was granted a very rare interview with his mother and his children. Okay, now that's Oprah. That's on Oprah and Michael in 1993, and a little bit of how Oprah was feeling and the things that Oprah was saying about Michael and right after he died and before she did the interview with, like I said, that rare interview with his mother and his children. Okay, now let's move on to 1995. Well, lo and behold, in 1995, we find out that Oprah's own father, Vernon Winfrey, was accused of sexual assault. He was accused of let me see how we're going to put this. Well, maybe I'll just read from, because this link too will also be in the description box. But he was accused of exposing himself to a young college student and demanding oral sex from her. And this was a college student that was supposedly seeking a scholarship because he was on the board of one of the colleges, Tennessee State University. And Winfrey told the Nashville Banner he previously helped the woman get financial aid at Tennessee State University. She asked for more help last week, he said. I told her I don't know if I could before I checked with the foundation. Now that's what Oprah's father said at the time, back in 1995, when he was accused of this alleged sexual assault. And Oprah called it extortion. Money motivated extortion. That's what she called it. And it has been rumored that Oprah actually paid this young woman off. That's what's been rumored, that she actually paid this young woman off. Nashville attorney David Vinson testified in General Sessions Court that Thompson McLeod initially asked for $750,000 to drop an indecent exposure charge that Thompson McLeod's client, Pamela Kennedy, had filed against Vernon Winfrey on January the 3rd. Vincent said Thompson McLeod claimed that national tabloid newspapers had offered him that much for an exclusive interview with his client, a Tennessee State University student who said Vernon Winfrey asked for sex in exchange for a scholarship funded by Oprah Winfrey. And then it goes on to say that they filed a $3 million civil lawsuit against Vernon Winfrey, February the 17th. But in the end, that case was settled. Never went to trial. It was settled. So that's what we have going on. So how hypocritical is it of Oprah to not understand being falsely accused of any kind of sexual misbehavior or misconduct or whatever, and for it to be money motivated when her and her father have gone through the exact same ordeal. And this case was settled, just like the Jordy Chandler case with Michael was settled all those years ago. But you have to understand one thing. With the Jordy Chandler case, within the settlement, there was no language that said that they couldn't still pursue criminal charges against Michael. And that's the reason why the DA's department, the DA's office took it to a grand jury twice, and both times the grand jury refused to indict, because there was no language in the settlement that said, okay, once we give you this money, you can't then pursue criminal charges against Michael Jackson. There was no language like that in the settlement. So they could have still pursued criminal charges. The family chose not to. The DA's office, because Tom Sneeden wanted Michael so bad, the DA's office still tried to pursue criminal charges. And they didn't have enough evidence to get the indictment. Okay, now let's move on to 2005. Okay, 2005, now we have Michael embroiled in this whole Gavin Arvizo case. And they finally get enough of what they think is evidence to actually get a grand jury to indict. They arrest Michael and they take him to trial. Again, 10 felony counts of misconduct, sexual molestation, sexual abuse, conspiracy, giving alcohol to illegal to minors, 10 felony counts and 4 misdemeanors. So 14 counts in all. But it's funny how during this whole court case, Oprah on her show continued to have, she started when the whole court thing started up with Michael in 2005. She started to have all of these child sexual abuse shows. It was almost like she was mocking Michael. It was almost like she was making a point because he was on trial for alleged sexual assault and sexual molestation and sexual abuse of a child. It was almost like because he was on trial for it, she was going to use that to all of a sudden bring all of this awareness to it that she hadn't thought to bring to it before. Now that by this time, it's been 12 years since they did that 1993 interview. Yeah, it's been 12 years since she talked about how much she liked him. And she was all hugged up on him and all of that. It's been 10 years since her father supposedly was falsely accused of sexual misconduct and sexual assault. But Michael's on trial. And this is when she decides that she all of a sudden wants to do this series of shows on sexual molestation and sexual abuse of a child. Okay. 2009 rolls around. Michael dies. She says all these wonderful things about Michael. She does this interview right here that I just read, this reflection of the 1993, where she talks about, you know, he was such a passionate person, and he had such a passion for life, and how much she liked him, and you know, and he had such a passion for just doing good and being good in life. And you know, because she had this connection with Michael, and because she put out there how much she liked him, and you know, they were supposed to be friends, and they were supposed to have this relationship that stemmed from the 1993 interview. She was granted something that as far as I'm concerned, nobody else has been granted since Michael died. And that was this very private interview with his mother, his grieving mother, and his grieving children. So time rolls on. Oprah's doing her thing with Weight Watchers. Oprah's doing her thing with OWN. Oprah gets in cahoots with Tyler Perry so that Tyler Perry can come and help boost the ratings for the OWN network. So, you know, Oprah's moving on. Oprah's been kind of quiet. Oprah's not saying a whole lot. Oprah's not doing a whole lot. Oprah's not, you know, out there too much. You know, she's you know, kind of doing her own private thing, and you know, nobody's hearing a whole lot from Oprah, except for, you know, it was a big thing when her and Tyler Perry joined forces, and people talked about that for a minute, but that didn't last a lot of time. You know, everybody knew that Oprah had, you know, invited him in and welcomed him in because she needed the help. She needed the help because the ratings for OWN were just at an all-time low. Okay, well then the next thing we know, I believe it was 2016, 2017, all of a sudden, no, we've got to go back. Let's backtrack. Yes, I forgot about somebody. Before we get to old Harvey, yes, I forgot about somebody, y'all. Well, in 2010, Oprah decides that she wants to join forces, and she wants to get behind, and she wants to promote this man that called himself John of God. Yes, I forgot about him. And Oprah travels all the way to, I believe it was Brazil, to do a documentary, to do an interview. Well, not a documentary, but to do an interview with this man. Now, this was in BuzzFeed. BuzzFeedNews.com. John of God was once hyped by Oprah. Now he's accused of abusing hundreds of women. More than 200 women have accused Brazil's John of God of sexually abusive behavior at his healing center. This was posted on December 14th, 2018. I'm not even going to begin to try to say his name. But it translates to John of God. He's a Brazilian medium healer, subject of a profile by Oprah, and, as of earlier this week, accused of abusing hundreds of women. Faria became famous for his intense methods of healing. Though he doesn't have a medical license, he performs both spiritual healing, praying intensely for believers and placing hands on them to cure their afflictions, and what appear to be actual surgical procedures without anesthesia. Faria has been written about for years, since his practice started in 1979, but an episode of Oprah in 2010 devoted to him raised his profile exponentially, which means wham, he blowed up. That's what it means. It means he blowed up. After this episode of Oprah in 2010 that was devoted to him, he blew up. Last Friday, 4 women appeared on Brazilian TV to accuse Faria of abusing them when they'd come to him for assistance. Speaking on TV Globo, 3 of the women described their encounters with Faria to host Pedro Bial on condition of anonymity. Dutch choreographer Zahara Leoniki Moss decided to be named and said that during one of her trips to see the healer to be cured of the trauma of previous sexual assault, he took her into a back room and had her masturbate him. He then had her pick out a gemstone from a set and granted special treatment. She has also accused him of raping her during another session. I really hope I can help other women out of this shadow because we do not need to feel ashamed, Morse said on the show. He has to feel ashamed, and all the people who protect him so he can continue to do what he does. She later told the New York Times in an interview that she'd heard of John of God from a friend and had seen Oprah Winfrey's documentary. Then you have other women that came forward and said that they had similar incidences with him that happened to her. On Monday, Brazilian prosecutors announced that since the program had aired, more than 200 women had come forward to say that they had also been abused by John of God while seeking treatment. Of course, he says that I am not guilty. We declare his innocence. We respect the right of the women to make these testimonies, but we do not recognize these testimonies as true. Mario Rosa, a spokesperson for Faria, told the Guardian. Now let's see what Miss Oprah had to say about this. You'll see a screenshot from a Brazilian airing of Oprah's 2010 episode on John of God, since removed from YouTube. So why was it removed from YouTube? In the 2010 Oprah episode, released in conjunction with a profile of Faria for O Magazine, by then the editor-in-chief, Susan Cassie, Winfrey implores viewers to decide for themselves whether they believe that John of God's work is miraculous. Among those whom Casey spoke to for her article is Dr. Mehmet Oz, a longtime Oprah collaborator who in 2005 examined Faria's claims for ABC News' Primetime Live. When talking to ABC, Oz was credulous about the possibilities that the healer's methods work, saying that Faria's surgeries could be an old magician's trick, but it's a pretty powerful one from a physician's perspective. I think the next big frontier is unlocking the doors to energy medicine. Oz, who has come under fire for his promotion of unscientific methods of healing over the years on his syndicated television show, told Casey. It dramatically broadens our vista of opportunities to heal. The challenge we have is that energy is not as easily quantified as the surgeon's scalpel. After the profile, Winfrey herself traveled to Brazil in 2012 to meet with Faria for an episode of Oprah's Next Chapter that would air the next year. In the episode and a written piece, she said she experienced something profound with the medium during a period where she was worrying about the health of the Oprah Winfrey Network, her television channel. I closed my eyes and sat quietly, feeling the rhythm of my breath, she wrote, having felt short of breath and a tingling sensation while watching Faria perform surgery on a woman with breast cancer. Tears of gratitude started to flow. Gratitude for the whole journey of my life, not just everything that had gone right, but the things that had not. I went to Brazil in 2012 to tape an episode of Oprah's Next Chapter that explored the controversial healing methods of John of God, Oprah said in a statement to the New York Times. The episode aired in 2013. I emphasize with the women now coming forward and hope justice is served. A representative for OWN didn't return a request for comment. According to the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine, both articles were still live as of Sunday evening. BuzzFeed News has reached out to OWN for more information on why the pieces were removed. BuzzFeed News has also reached out to Casey's publicist regarding the article's removal. The scandal has yet to dissuade Faria's followers from flocking to the small town of Abadiânia, where Farias runs his healing centers. We haven't yet felt the impact. Maybe we will next week, a restaurant owner near the center told the AFP on Wednesday. We want him to pay for his crimes, if he really committed any, but we don't want the center to close. Now that's how she supported John of God. She supported him by, doing 2 pieces on him, doing a written piece on him. She even traveled to Brazil so that she could have an experience with him. You heard what she said about I closed my eyes and sat quietly, feeling the rhythm of my breath, she wrote, having felt short of breath and a tingling sensation while watching Faria perform surgery on a woman with breast cancer. Tears of gratitude started to flow. Gratitude for the whole journey of my life, not just everything that had gone wrong, but the things that had not. But all the pieces and all the stuff that they had done has been removed. BuzzFeed News has reached out to OWN for more information on why the pieces were removed. BuzzFeed News has also reached out to Casey's publicist regarding the article's removal. So why was the stuff removed? Just like, think about it, just like all of a sudden now, the Twitter post, the Instagram post, and the clips from the interviews that she did with Safe Chuck and Robson have now all been removed. They've all been deleted. And if you see them there, if you notice the date, you'll notice that they're not dated back in March, the 1st of March, because all of that's gone. Once it's been removed, if you try to put it back, it's dated for the date that you put it back, not the original date that you put it up. And when I first heard it, I went to her Twitter, I went to her Instagram, and I went to her YouTube channel to see if the stuff had actually been removed. And yes, it had been removed. Now, yeah, it's still on Oprah.com. It's still on her website. You know, HBO may still be airing some stuff this month. When we talked about pulling the plug, HBO pulling the plug on the Leaving Neverland documentary, we weren't talking about they had already pulled the plug. We said pulling. And the articles that we read specifically said that it was scheduled to be aired until September 2019, but that the last airing date was April 2019, and that there were no other airing dates listed after that. If that's the case, then that's pulling the plug. That's taking it down and not airing it earlier than you were supposed to. If Oprah has deleted everything that she had on her Twitter, her Instagram, and her YouTube channel concerning Leaving Neverland and the hour-long interview after Leaving Neverland that she herself did, then that means she's backtracking. Just like all of this stuff about John of God was removed. Why? Because if you remove it and nobody can see it, then eventually people will stop talking about it and people will forget it. And people will forget that you supported this man and you promoted this man. But where are your documentaries to talk to the women that allege he sexually assaulted them? Where's your documentary and your interviews with these women? You could travel to Brazil to see him. You could travel to Brazil to promote him. You could travel to Brazil to have your spiritual moment with him. Why can't you travel to Brazil to do a documentary on these women? Since you're all about women, since you're all about supporting women that are being sexually assaulted, that are being raped, that are being abused and taken advantage of and sexually harassed. Since you're all into the Me Too movement, why haven't you gone to Brazil to set up to do documentaries or do a documentary with interviews on the victims or the alleged victims of John of God? Somebody that you once supported. It's funny how when Oprah has supported somebody and promoted somebody and been all close to somebody and rubbed elbows with somebody and all kissy and hugged up with somebody, and then they're accused of sexual assault, it's funny how she can't do a documentary on them. She can't seem to do a documentary and interview their victims. But Michael is dead. Michael is one that she was supposed to be close to, that she rubbed elbows with, she was supposed to be buddy with. But see, Michael is dead. Michael can't speak for himself. He can't defend himself. Michael can't look at her and wag his finger at her and say, "Oh no, Oprah, oh no, you will not get away with that. You can't do that. Shame on you." John of God is still living. He could call her out for her hypocrisy. Harvey Weinstein is still living. He can call her out for her hypocrisy. Michael can't do that. Michael can't call her out for her hypocrisy. Michael can't look her in her face and tell her, "Oh no, you don't, you hypocrite. Oh no, you don't, you backstabber." Now that's John of God. And of course, this This article will also be in the description box. So you can come read this and see what this is all about. And you can go on YouTube and see the interviews that she did with, I'll try to link one in the description box. See the interviews, and you can actually see when she went to Brazil and had this interview with him in 2012. So that's 2 interviews she did with this man now, 2010 and 2012. Okay? But where's the interviews with his alleged victims? Since we living in Me Too, and since she all about Me Too, she can give this riveting speech at the 2018 Global Golden Globe Awards, where she's just all about women and telling the men your time is up and it's a new day and all this and hopefully we'll get to the time when no other woman has to say Me Too and all this. Okay, well then why isn't Me Too over in Brazil doing documentaries and interviews with those women? Why is Oprah not over there? Just like why is Oprah not doing interviews and documentaries with any of Harvey Weinstein's alleged victims? See, it's real easy once somebody has been caught for you to stand up and do a little speech. You understand what I'm saying? When they know that it's just fake words. They know that you're not going to do anything to back up those words. They know you're not going to do anything to bring attention to what's really going on with them, to what's really going on in Hollywood. It's talk is cheap. And that's all it is, a bunch of talk. I think that's the reason why, if you look at the clip of Oprah's Golden Globe speech, and you look at Angelina Jolie, and you look at the look on her face, it's like it's almost like you can see the wheels in her mind going round and round, and it's almost like you can hear her in her mind saying, yeah, but you was mighty buddy with him. And yeah, you was always all hugged up with him and kissing on him and all of that. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it don't mean a whole lot. I'm telling you, get that clip and watch the expression on Angelina Jolie's face. It will tell you all you need to know. Now, like I said, let's go back to see what Miss Oprah had to say about old Buddy Harvey and the allegations against him. This was October 19, 2017. Oprah Winfrey sees this as a silver lining to the Harvey Weinstein allegations. The talk show host, who suffered sexual abuse during her childhood, offers her perspective on the scandal. After film producer Harvey Weinstein was accused of sexual misconduct, a widespread conversation struck up in Hollywood and beyond. From countless celebrities speaking out to the widespread Me Too movement on social media, the past couple of weeks have shown a light on the pervasiveness of sexual harassment. And according to Oprah Winfrey, the frank, if painful, discussion represents a positive step forward. Addressing the Weinstein scandal on CBS this morning, the television icon said, "I'm always trying to look for the rainbow in the cloud. Whatever is the silver lining. And this is what I do know for sure. Something this major happens when you have the fallout, 50 women coming forward, that it's a watershed moment." That's what she had to say about old Buddy Harvey being accused of sexual misconduct, rape, sexual assault, the whole 9 yards, with, she says, 50 women coming forward. I'm always trying to look for the rainbow in the cloud. whatever is the silver lining. Something this major happens when you have the fallout, 50 women coming forward, that it's a watershed moment. Then they have this Facebook post that she put up about 2 years ago. I've been processing the accounts of Harvey Weinstein's hideous behavior and haven't been able to find the words to articulate the magnitude of the situation. Filmmaker James Skamos captured so much of what I've been feeling when he said, "This is the story of one predator and his many victims, but it is also a story about an overwhelming, systematic enabling, and until that story is fully told, we will fall far short of stopping future depredations on a similar scale." But Winfrey was quick to point out on CBS this morning that the watershed moment is not just about the disgraced movie mogul. If we make this just about Harvey Weinstein, then we have lost this moment. I think this is a moment where no matter what business you work in, the women who not only had the disease to please, that's a part of it. See how she shifts it right there? She shifts it right there and tries to take some of the heat and some of the blame off of Harvey and actually put it over on the women. The women who had the disease to please. That's part of it. But who felt that in order to keep my job, to keep my position, in order to keep moving forward, I've got to smile. I've got to look the other way. I've got to pretend he didn't say that. He didn't touch me. Those days are about to be over. So she gives you all of this spiel, all of this rhetoric, but if you listen to her words very carefully, she just tried to take the heat off of Harvey and put it on the women with the disease to please. Yeah, I want you to take a minute and think about that. I want you to take just a minute and think about that. I want you to take a minute and think about what she said. I think this is a moment where no matter what business you work in, the woman who not only had the disease to please, that's part of it. So is she really as Me Too as she puts out to be? Is she really as supportive of women that have been sexually harassed and sexually abused and raped and sexually harassed in the workplace and all of that? Is she as Me Too as she puts out? She is. Because if she's so Me Too, then where's her involvement in the LaDaisha Lee situation? Yeah, the young black woman that was viciously assaulted by Austin Sheffield in Texas. If she's so concerned about Me Too and what's happening with women, then where's her cry to find out what really happened to Tamara Horsford? Yeah, that's the young woman that was spending the night, a sleepover, at a friend's house, surrounded by all these white women. And all of a sudden, they find her dead the next morning, laying in the yard with her neck broke. Talking about she was drunk and she fell over a balcony. What about the young woman? If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Tennessee that was found. Excuse me. That was found drowned. A young black woman was found drowned in the bottom of the swimming pool at the friend's house, at the white friend's house. Everybody at the pool party. They done had a party. She was supposed to get married a month from then. They find her dead in the bottom of the pool, but nobody knows anything. Where's Me Too and Oprah? If they so concerned about what's going on with women, where are they at? If Oprah is so concerned about child sexual abuse, because, supposedly she was abused when she was 9 years old. So if she's so concerned about child sexual abuse, explain to me why Oprah has never, ever interviewed Corey Feldman. And Corey Feldman it has thrown out so many names and it has given so much information, and it has so much information about the many sophisticated pedophile rings in Hollywood. He has named names. All you have to do is get the documentary, An Open Secret. That was a documentary that Corey Feldman was a part of. He's been on the news. He's been to the morning shows. He's been over there with The View with Barbara Walters, them, and that's all he talks about. That's all he talked about. Why is it that somebody that's so concerned about child abuse, so concerned about child sexual abuse, and about pedophilia, and about children being molested, that they could be a part of that whole leaving Neverland thing, and then do an hour-long interview with the alleged victims after the whole thing airs? Why is it that she's never interviewed Corey Feldman? Why is it that Gayle has never interviewed Corey Feldman? Why is it that Oprah or Gayle have never interviewed Ed Buck? Kevin Spacey, Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer was one of the ones that, and he's big in Hollywood, a big producer and all of that in Hollywood. And he's one of the ones that's named in the documentary, An Open Secret, that Corey Feldman was a part of. So why are they not interviewing these men? Why are they not interviewing these victims of sexual abuse? Grown people, children that were abused when they were child stars. If you're so concerned, why are you not interviewing any of these kids? Why are you not interviewing any of these adults now that were kids and were being abused? And I mean, and they are all a part of this documentary, An Open Secret. It's funny how Oprah picks and chooses who she wants to interview and who she wants to believe, and how deep she really wants to go in all of this, how deep she really wants to take it. Because if you were really that concerned and your journalistic instincts are being touched, and your spider senses are tingling, and you just need to know what's going on, and you just want to get to the bottom of this, and it's bigger than Michael Jackson, and it's bigger than Harvey Weinstein, and it's bigger than, okay, well, if it's bigger, then why aren't you dealing with it head on? And why aren't you dealing with it with people that are living that need to answer for their crimes, or at least need to be forced to answer their accusers? But no, instead you're going after a dead man. You're going after a dead man. You're going after a man that, first of all, has already answered his accusers, has already been tried, investigated, tried, and found not guilty. And we know he hasn't abused or molested anybody in the last 10 years because he's dead. So why are you going after him When he's already gone through the system, he's already gone through the process. He's already answered he's already answered his accusers. So why are you going after him when there are all these living people that you could question, that you could interview? That you could bring to the forefront so that they would have to answer their accusers. But you go after a dead man. You know, and just like, you know, we had Seal. Seal came out. You know the singer Seal. He came out, you know, and he talked about, you know, all the people, you know, he talked about all the people that knew what Harvey Weinstein was doing, and everybody being all hypocritical and acting like they didn't know, especially Oprah and, you know, and half of Hollywood, like they didn't know what the man was doing and all of that. We knew what he was doing, and we don't live in Hollywood. We don't move and shake and rub elbows with these folks, but we knew what was going on. I mean, it was a running joke on several of the award shows. They got up and they talked about, you know, you don't have to act like you like Harvey Weinstein anymore, and you don't have to date Harvey Weinstein. I mean, it was a running joke in Hollywood. But then you're gonna get up at the Golden Globes and you're gonna, you know, do this beautifully articulate speech, which was a whole bunch of lie and a whole bunch of hypocrisy, like you didn't know what was going on. And all of Hollywood knew what was going on. At least people that have been there for a while. Now, maybe some of them young fresh ones coming in didn't know what was going on, but it didn't take them long to find out. But you knew. But you're going to give this beautiful speech of empowerment like you didn't know. And folks bought it, hook, line, and sinker. You rubbed elbows with the most elite in Hollywood. So you knew secrets some folks will never know. That's why you're trying to dig up Michael Jackson. That's why you sent Gail to interview R. Kelly. Of all the people that she could have interviewed, she gonna go interview R. Kelly. Like I said, I bet you didn't send her to interview Corey Feldman. I bet you didn't send her to interview Kevin Spacey or Bryan Singer or Ed Buck. You gonna send her to interview R. Kelly. Why? Because we gotta put these black men out there. You understand? We got to make these black men, you know, look like they are the faces of the abusers and the sexual deviants and the perverts and the child molesters and the dangerous sexual assaulters. We got to make them look like they are the face of this lie talking about toxic masculinity. While you hide and cover up and try to bury what's going on with the white men. The ones who taught all of us how to be sexual predators, how to be sexually deviant, how to be twisted and perverted, with the buck breaking and the raping. Their sexual history is full of nothing but debauchery. But you're going to send Gail to interview R. Kelly and try to make him look all bad and you know, and try to push that up in everybody's face. And then you're going to praise her. Oh, she did such a wonderful job on her interview with R. Kelly. R. Kelly been through the system. Again, R. Kelly is another man that has been through the system. had to face his accusers, been through the whole court system, trial and everything, and walked away not guilty. Bill Cosby is an old man that should never have been bothered in the first place. He is in prison with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. No proof of any kind of crime. And I think they sentenced him to 10 years. Harvey Weinstein walking around free. Kevin Spacey walking around free. Bryan Singer walking around free. Ed Buck walking around free after they pulled 2 dead black bodies out of his house. He walking around free. And so many others. But let's come on now to 2019. Well, right after you do all of this, all this wonderful Golden Globe speech, you done signed this secret deal with Apple. All of a sudden, here come Leaving Neverland. And you a part of that mess. We done already talked about the part you playing in that. We done already talked about that. But now, you trying to ditch that. Just like you pulled all the stuff about your praise of John of God, now you have pulled all the stuff that connected you with Leaving Neverland, except for on Oprah.com. Because, see, you're ready to move on. You're ready to move on with Apple. You know what I'm saying? You're ready to clean your plate. You're ready to move on with Apple and do your new thing with Apple. So now all of a sudden you in cahoots with Prince Harry. Talking about you going to do a docu-series on mental health. Well, let's look into that. Okay? Let's look into you doing a docu-series with somebody that's over there in London, England. Now, Taraji P. Henson is right here in the United States. And she's big on mental health. Especially mental health in the black community, because for so long there's been such a stigma attached to it that a lot of times when people in the black community, when members of the black community need mental health or are dealing with mental health issues, because of the stigma, we won't go get the help we need to go get. White folk are going to sit down in front of a therapist over a stumped toe if they feel like they need to do it. There are very few white people that are ashamed of having a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, or whatever you want to call them. If they feel like they got an issue, most white people gonna go get them some help. Black people don't see it that way. In our community, most of us, not all of us, but most of us don't see it that way. There's stigma attached to it in our community. And that's one of the things that Taraji and some others are really, really big about. Trying to get the black community to come out of that. And to understand that there's no stigma attached to you going to get you some help for your mind. Just like your body gets sick, your mind can get sick. But instead of Oprah Winfrey, with all of her platform, teaming up with somebody like Taraji to do something that will help her own community, she gonna deal with somebody in England. She gonna team up with Prince Harry. Okay, well, why couldn't she team up with Taraji or somebody like Taraji and Prince Harry? Since Apple has given you this platform. I tell you why. Because Oprah don't give a flying shit about what goes on in the black community. Oprah don't give a flying flip about what goes on with black people. Whether they be male or female. Now, she really don't like black men. And she has made that perfectly clear. But she don't give a flip about what's going on in the black community, period. Just think about it. When Oprah decided that she was going to open up a school for girls, Oprah went to Africa. Like the black girls in the United States didn't need that help. Like they didn't need that. But she don't have a problem bringing down black folks here in the United States. She didn't have a problem ripping apart Michael Jackson. She didn't have a problem praising Gayle for the interview with R. Kelly. That's because Oprah does not care anything about the black community. Oprah stopped caring about the black community back in the early, well, I say about the middle 90s. When she stopped doing anything worthwhile on her show. This is when I personally stopped fooling with Oprah. When she stopped doing anything positive, anything meaningful on her show. Think about it. I want y'all to think about it. Those of you who are old enough, I want you to think about the topics that Oprah used to talk about when she first started her show. Important things that had to do with not only the black community, but a lot of it was what was going on in the black community. But nationally, there were topics that meant something. There were topics that impacted people. And then all of a sudden you started seeing a change in Oprah. Every time you turn around, all she was doing was interviewing celebrities. It seemed like to me, if I can remember right, it started with Will Smith. Then it went on to Tom Hanks and him jumping around doing all of that. What's his name? What's that man's name? Tom Cruise jumping around doing all of that foolishness. And then the next thing you know, it was Tom Hanks. Then it was Jennifer Aniston. And it just went from there. Then the next thing you know, Oprah was no longer talking about God. Because remember, Oprah, when she first started her show, was all about God. She let everybody know, that her belief was God and where her faith was. Well, then the next thing you know about, Oprah was praising and worshiping angels and talking about the angel thing she had going on. Then the next thing you know, she was into Scientology. Then the next thing you know, she was with this Eckhart man that she's dealing with now. So see, that's when I started fooling with Oprah back in the 90s. I seen the change in her. I saw when she sold out. And when she became Hollywood. When she stopped caring anything about what was going on in her community and what was going on with her people. But I tell you what Oprah will do with black folks. Oprah will use black folks when it suits her. She used Michael Jackson to put her on the map back in 1993. She used Tyler Perry to help get her ratings back up for her own network. She used Gayle to interview R. Kelly to promote everything that was about to go on with the Leaving Neverland. Then she tried to use Michael again. Tried to use his family in 2009 to get ratings when she interviewed his mother, his grieving mother, and his grieving children. She used him again in 2019 with that whole Leaving Neverland mess she did when she interviewed them two liars. She used Sidney Poitier and Reese Taylor. That's the black woman that was raped back in, I think it was the 1950s, by the 6 white men. She used Sidney Poitier and Reese Taylor in her little Golden Globe speech. She used them to try to prove a point. So see, she don't care nothing about the black community. She don't do nothing for the black community, but try to tear us down and try to tear our heterosexual black men down every chance she gets. But she'll use the black community when it suits her, when it suits her purpose. So I just wanted to spend a little time tonight to break some things down for y'all about Mammy Oprah so that y'all can see that Oprah been up to her shenanigans. This ain't nothing. This ain't brand new. People just didn't want to see it. People just didn't want to accept it. And nobody talked about it enough. But see, everybody that had been watching Oprah and knew that Oprah was a sellout years ago, everybody was like, okay, well, when she pulled this stunt with MJ, and he been dead 10 years, and she threw her support and threw her platform behind these two liars, when their stories were so full of holes that they were more holy than Swiss cheese, and she's supposed to be a journalist. She's supposed to be an interviewer that asks the hard questions. And she wanted us to believe that she was just taking them at face value. No. It was a cover-up. It's been a cover-up. When she stood at the Golden Globes and gave that speech, I believe even then she knew about the Leaving Neverland documentary that was coming out. And she knew what she was going to do. When she signed the deal with Apple, she knew what was on the horizon as far as the Leaving Neverland documentary was concerned. Oprah didn't do this because she believes Wade Robson and Jimmy Safechuck. She didn't do it because she believes their stories. Just like we can pick hole, we can debunk their stories in a few minutes based on the actual evidence, so could she. Oprah has a position. Oprah sold out. Oprah's not trying to lose her position. Oprah's not trying to lose her place. Oprah's not trying to lose her platform. Oprah's not trying to lose her position with Hollywood and the elite. So Oprah will do whatever she's told to do, and Oprah will do whatever she has to do. Gayle too, and others, because they sold out. That's how a sellout looks. You want to see a sellout? Look at Oprah. Look at Gayle. Look at what's his name? Lee Daniels. Look at Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. Look at so many of them. And you'll see sellouts. You'll see how it looks. You'll see snakes in the grass. And you got to call them out. You got to point out a snake in the grass when you find it. Because if you don't, they'll slip up on somebody and bite them. And those snakes are poisonous. Oprah has finally let us see just how poisonous she is. Along with her little flunky Gail. But I just wanted to give y'all a little breakdown on Mammy Oprah. She's a Hollywood puppet. She will continue to be a Hollywood puppet as long as Hollywood allows her to be a puppet. She will continue to do their bidding. She will continue to cover up for them. She will continue to try to maintain their secrets. And she will continue to try to use black men, heterosexual black men, to cover up their secrets and hide them. But that's just a little breakdown. I wanted to give y'all on Oprah. A little timeline. From 1993, when she first did the interview with Michael Jackson. And he put her on the map. And basically set the stage for her to be who she is right now. So instead of digging him up, trying to crucify him all over again, she should be thanking him. Because he opened the door for her. With the most watched interview in television history. Remember that, Oprah. Remember that. Remember who you stabbed in the back. Remember who you were willing to sacrifice so you could protect your Harvey Weinsteins and your Sterling Van Wagenings and your Kevin Spaceys and your Bryan Singers and all the others, your Ed Bucks and all the other ones. Remember who you sacrificed. Remember what you sacrificed. So that you could keep the place that he, Michael Jackson, made it possible for you to have. Like this video. Share this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please support the channel if you see fit. Please comment below. Keep it respectful. Please check out these articles because all of this information will be linked in the description box. Y'all have a good night and be blessed.